Like, wow, I hear you decided to do it. You know,
Oh, great point.
people
Yeah.
we do typically don't do it. So why did you decide to do it? You know,
Yeah.
like, oh no, well, why don't you tell me if there's anybody around here I trust? Why don't you-
Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Severance. Season 1, Episode 8. What's for dinner? We open with a view of Irving's Audi. He's out with his dog in the evening. He's reading Marcus Aurelius. It's a translation of Aurelius's Meditations, which is essentially a classical self-help book. So it's probably what Rickon wants the you are to be.
Okay.
He then goes inside. He seems to live alone, and he downs cups of coffee, blares the ace of spades, and starts painting an image that his innie would see at Lumen, using a ton of black paint, and we'll talk more in detail about that in a second. We end with a montage of the refining department Audis going about their evenings. Innie Dylan locks himself into the Lumen security office, flips the switches, activating the innies of Mark, Irving, and Helly, all to play for in our finale, episode 9. Paul, what did you think of the penultimate episode of season 1?
I enjoyed it. I was glad to get these looks into the lives, even though it wasn't very full, but at least it was more of an impression than we had before. And yeah, I didn't foresee what they did with Harmony.
Right,
and,
she gets fired.
Yeah, and so that was a surprise. I wonder the effects of that, so I'm very curious about what happens with that. It's really very much part 1 of 2.
It certainly is, right? You to watch this in a vacuum, it'd be like, what? So yeah, it definitely is, depending on the finale, to make episodes 8 and 9 a satisfying package. So let's talk real quick about this Irving using the black paint. Hence the imagery we see of the black goo entering Irving's consciousness, right? Whenever he starts to fall asleep, he sees black goo. It would seem to be relative to the fact that his Audi paints and uses a whole bunch of black paint in his painting. Also, that explains the black crud under his fingernails.
Yes,
right,
it most certainly does.
So I guess he stays awake because he's chugging coffee and he's playing very loud music to stay awake, I think, in order to paint. So is it just that he's trying to maximize his Audi time? Do we think, is there a reason for that? Do we know? Or what is the...
Yeah, I don't have any theories on that.
Because it's just, obviously it's negatively impacting any Irving. Everybody's starting to fall asleep all the time at work.
Oh, yes, that's true.
And the reason is because his Audi doesn't go to bed. You're like, go to bed, you jerk.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, in that he keeps doing the same piece over and over again.
Great point. Yeah.
So, it's interesting that, they could have just had a few canvases there, but he's got untold number of them. So we don't yet know how he feels about that and why he's doing. He hasn't spoken about the piece, and we haven't seen him, Irving, outside speak to anyone. He's got a pet, right? But he doesn't even talk to his pet.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about that in a second when it comes to what we think is going to happen in the next episode based on where the Audis are.
Sure.
And Irving seems to be an exception in that he seems to be alone, so it's like he'll have extra work to do. But so the image that Audi Irving is painting is this door to the testing floor. That's what we're going with. It's a place that we hadn't really heard of before, but we hear about it in this episode. It's where Miss Casey is sent. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's an area that we would assume that any Irving, the any Irving we know, wouldn't be privy to, right? Because it's like, send Miss Casey to the testing floor. Basically, they're gonna just put her to sleep. It sounds like, for maybe ever, but anyway, they're retiring her off to this floor. The interesting thing too is the point of view of this picture is from a distance, right? The red light to the top, and then the door, and then the hallway. It's from the door to the entryway that leads to the testing floor.
Okay.
So to me, what that means is if Milchick had stuck around. Milchick takes Miss Casey to the testing floor, hallway. Says, "Get in there," closes the door. If Milchick had hung around, he would have seen the image on the painting.
Sure.
So does that suggest that maybe Irving used to have Milchick's position? That pre-Milchick, Irving was the Milchick. And we also, because we'll talk about this too, but we see a lot of different protocols in the security room.
Sure.
One of them is clean slate. It makes you sound like you could just kind of like erase someone's memories and just recycle them. It's the fact that the red light is on. That's the part that's like, Miss Casey, if she was painting it, she wouldn't have that memory of it because she'd have been inside before the red light even came on. So anyway, it obviously sets up some interesting scenarios for Irving. Harmony orders Mark to take a wellness check with Miss Casey, and at this, we learn that Miss Casey has. Well, first of all, she's being retired or whatever, and she's only been alive for 107 hours.
Yeah.
She is now being taken to the testing floor, whatever that means.
Yes.
Mark feels sympathy for Miss Casey, though he doesn't realize still that she was his wife.
Yes.
We cut back to Milchick and Harmony watching obviously the wellness check as they've been doing. Milchick sees the meeting as a success, proving Severance works once again. Harmony seems less satisfied, and we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. I have a little theory on that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
We then have this thing where the group, because remember the last time we saw them in episode 7, it was like, let's burn this place to the ground. So their plan is to get their quota. Helly's the last person to meet quota. Everybody else is finished. They're just like sitting around.
Yes.
But she hits 100%. She gets this awesome 80s video game animation of Kier. Kind of remind me of like when I used to play like the Ultima games back in the day. They win a party, and as part of their plan, Dylan is awarded Employee of the Quarter, so he gets the waffle party.
Yes. The infamous waffle party.
The waffle party is this week's WTF moment, right? Each week seems to have one. You got the goats. You had any Dylan getting flipped on at home and seeing his kid. You had Miss Casey equals Gemma. And this week's WTF, the waffle party. This is not Dylan's first waffle party. I think we've been told that earlier. So he knows what to expect, unlike us. I didn't expect, if you'd asked me before this happened, what's the waffle party? And I'm like, they just bring out like a little waffle bar and everybody, like he shares waffles. But no
sharing of waffles.
No sharing either. That's a good point. Like if you want it, then everybody wins it, I guess. But
it's a dinner and a show.
It's dinner. It's dinner and a show. So he's escorted by Milchick to the replica. This is after hours. That's kind of the reason that they do this. Is like, you can be in the building after hours this way, and seemingly it makes sense. So he's escorted to the replica of Kier Egan's home in the Perpetuity Wing, where he eats his plate of waffles. Then he goes to the bedroom. He puts on a Kier mask, and he watches basically like a burlesque interpretation of, I believe, the painting that we saw earlier this season, which shows Kier about to hit like this anthropomorphic goat with his cat o' nine tails. I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a version of that being played out. But of course, midway through the dance, Dylan is gone. Because his plan was like, all right, get the thing going. I know they're going to do this dance. I got to sit in. It's going to take a while. I'll just sneak out. And so he sneaks out, and he locks himself in the security office. You mentioned Harmony getting fired. Harmony gets fired, at least in part, for not telling the board about Helly's suicide attempt.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, how did they keep that, and how was it discovered?
She went to the hospital. Helly's innie tried to commit suicide. Her outie
Yes.
acknowledged it and saved herself. Then she was in the hospital for days, apparently, or she didn't come back for days, but she
yeah.
apparently was hospitalized. They checked on her, and then she came back. How does, especially if there's a theory, and I'm not saying it's a bad theory, it's a reasonable theory, that she is an Egan.
Right.
If she was an Egan, how would Egan Helly almost die, then go to the hospital, and none of the board would know?
Yeah.
That seems a little, I don't know.
It's interesting that they like when we discovered that she was keeping information about severance or reintegration to herself. When we found that out, it seemed logical. It's like, okay, I'm not going to tell them about this one thing, but that kind of secret. I need to hear more about why she felt she could and should keep that a secret. It makes me,
Right.
Makes me wonder if Helly really knew, because we don't have any, we got a video after she was going to cut her hand, but we didn't get a video after she tried to kill herself.
Right.
So we don't actually know that Helly's outie knows about... we don't know that. It's kind of hard to imagine that it was kept from her.
We know that she does regain consciousness as outie Helly and is struggling in the elevator in that moment.
Yes. So yeah. So it's not like she didn't know about hanging herself. She knew that part.
Right.
but the aftermath of that is not what her experience was. After that, we don't know.
So Harmony is fired for maybe multiple reasons. That was one of them. They show the picture of like Helly's suicide attempt. They're like, you didn't tell the board.
Yes.
She just flips out, right? She loses it in the car on the way home. She destroys the shrine.
Yep.
Mark, kind of, I think, unfortunately, we'll find out. Maybe it's a fortuitous circumstance that we'll find out in episode 9. But in my opinion, unfortunately, invites her to the sister's party. And so right before this flip happens...
Yeah, right before this happened, she did that and ended up at the party. I think I would have, said it's either Rickon or Devin that Mark is going to confess to at this party, but he's going to immediately have a reaction of, who am I hugging?
Right. Yeah, immediately before what will be the flip, outie Mark confides in Harmony that he wants to quit Lumen. And since she's just been fired, seemingly, she's urging him to do so. Like, get out of there. And so he's about to then become innie Mark. That's a really interesting thing. So, okay, here's a theory a little bit on Harmony and some of her reasoning. Okay, so we see her when she's destroying the shrine. She's holding that medical gear from the shrine. That's probably from her mom. Again, we'd seen it before.
Sure.
Given what happened to Gemma,
yes,
seemingly Gemma died or was in a car wreck and then taken down. Anyway, we don't know all the details, but somehow she ended up in here.
Yes,
I think it's possible that maybe Harmony's mom is basically like a Gemma, like a Miss Casey. So maybe she died or was going to die, but her brain was still active, something like that. And so maybe Harmony's mom also exists on the testing floor. That's kind of my thought. And that's why Harmony keeps matching Mark and Miss Casey's interaction, or watching them and matching them up, because she's interested in reintegration. Like, if her mom is a Miss Casey, if reintegration is possible and Miss Casey can remember being Gemma, then Harmony's mom might remember being Harmony's mom. Maybe that's the thing. That's why she's so interested in it. Like, I'd love for my mom to be my mom again. And right now, maybe she's just like testing drone at Lumen, maybe.
So do you think something different would have happened if they caught the surgeon? So Harmony was working with Grainer to get the surgeon who, did the procedure of
Ragabi.
Ragabi reintegration. So do you think she wouldn't have turned Ragabi over to the committee or whatever?
I think that's a possibility because she knew the name already, and if you
Right.
remember, she didn't give the name up when she had a chance, even kind of to save herself a little bit. So yeah, I think it's possible that she wanted to get that information out of Ragabi. You know, and so if Ragabi's the only person that could do reintegration, then I think that person then she'd be very valuable to Harmony.
Sure.
I'll put it that way. But that's a good point. We don't know.
Because then it caused him to question her devotion to Kier up until that point. Then,
Well, yeah, I'm just saying maybe her devotion to Kier is the idea that you can save my mom. You know, and then now she's being separated from Lumen entirely, which means she has no more access to the shell that is her mom. Maybe I know this is all theoretical, so it could all within like 5 minutes of next week's episode. Okay, that's not it at all. All right, there we go. We have also another plot development in that Helly kisses Mark before they leave.
yes,
And so, obviously, their relationship is progressing. I think, if I had to guess, I think we're maybe headed for, like, any Mark is going to find out that he was married to Miss Casey. And so, maybe he feels like having a relationship with any Helly would be like a betrayal. I don't know. Maybe. He would also want to rescue Miss Casey from the testing floor, I would think, if he finds that out. Anyway, I feel like maybe that's where that's going. Is like he's gonna feel conflicted, maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that we didn't see very much of what Helly is, we only saw a glimpse of her at some party.
She's at a party.
We only know about 2 parties going on at this moment. We know about Mark's party, that is sister and brother-in-law are sending, and there's the other party.
There's the other party. She's
Lumen.
dressed pretty nice.
Yeah.
It suggests that she's at maybe the Lumen Gala, as opposed to, I didn't even think about Rickon and Devin's party. If she was just sitting in the corner, like, what?
Yeah. It's like, I feel overdressed.
Yeah, right. No, so I think she's going to be in a different locale. But, yeah, so maybe the Lumen Gala, which also, if that's true, would lean in the direction that she is perhaps an Egan. But, again, I think there's reason to think she's not. Maybe she's just, anyway, someone associated with Lumen.
Right,
perhaps.
but the fact that we didn't even see more, I mean, obviously they want to reveal a lot, but
yeah.
I'd be
They
surprised
definitely,
if she didn't have some sort of relationship on the outside. That would be a conflict.
I think you're right on that too. And maybe any Helly realizes that she's married or something. She'll have like her spouse will be next to her or something. Be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they certainly set us up like, oh, what if we're married to each other or whatever? And it's like, okay, we know that Mark doesn't have that experience. And they've mentioned a number of times, what if you have some sort of romance?
Yep.
When the babysitter mentioned that. So they definitely want us to have that concept in our heads. One thing that I thought was interesting, they seem to be suggesting, they were getting close to saying that Miss Casey perhaps might have had feelings for Mark. The fact that she's leaving and, she's expressing some feelings towards Mark, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like something might be there.
Yeah, I feel like also the fact that Audi Irving is expressing through paint something that any Irving is witnessing suggests that there is a reintegration link, between the two. So yes, Helly is at some kind of dinner party. Irving, we get a pretty good view of, Irving any Irving's gonna wake up alone with a bunch of paint and his dog and a music blaring. And I think because I like the fact that they all agreed, like, let's not try to find out about our Audi lives. Don't waste time. We're just trying to find someone we trust and then tell them all about Lewin. That's our goal.
Yeah.
And so how any Irving doesn't know anyone, I would think, outside. So I would think Bert is his only. He knows there's an Audi Bert. He knows what Audi Bert looks like.
Yeah, good luck finding him.
Yeah. So that's my thought is he'll, I don't know, attempt to track down Bert in the time he has.
What's that phone book? People with the last name, whatever his last initial is.
Unless he's maybe going to spend the time painting something for his Audi to be like, what you're painting is what I see. It's in Lumen. It's blah, 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 blah. So when his Audi wakes up, he sees like some kind of message. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you could write a very explicit message.
If Helly is actually at a party at the Lumen Gala, then that means her innie is going to be able to tell off a whole bunch of execs, probably, right? Or the board or something. She's going to be innie Helly feeling defiant jazz. Letting these folks have it, probably. Maybe.
Really?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't you think she would want to not be found out? I would think she wants to, that the whole thing that they were saying about find someone you trust. That's not her doing that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. The implications are they effectively die if they don't come back. So the innies.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was just thinking like she's going to be in this place perhaps with a whole bunch of folks that like are invested in keeping Lumen around and have been doing it for years, and she's suffering from it. I could imagine a scenario where she, has some kind of monologue. But you're right. Maybe that's not. Maybe she just has to hold it in.
One thing I imagine is people going up like, "Wow, I hear you decided to do it."
Oh, great point.
People
we
typically don't do it. So why did you decide to do it?
Yeah.
No, well, why don't you tell me if there's anybody around here I trust?
Right. Now, something that almost certainly will happen, because they've set it up so well, is that Mark is going to get to quote Rickon's book in front of Rickon.
Yes.
Because they've already set up at the party. They're supposed to have like, we're gonna do a book reading. Did you bring your copy?
Yeah. He's gonna be able to recite it.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll make Rickon just smile so big.
Yes.
So that'll be. I think that's almost certainly gonna happen in some way.
Yeah. That I think. Yeah. If if that doesn't happen, I will understand your indignation.
Yes. Okay, let's talk for a second about this, the different protocols that Dylan sees. So he gets in there, he locks himself in, he starts flipping all the switches, and then it brings up these protocols. We knew that one of them is like the overtime protocol, and that's that's the one that he apparently had to in his closet and saw his kid. Sure. But there are others.
Yes.
And all we know is just by name. And so we can guess, maybe throw some theories out. So, for instance, clean slate. All right, it does sound like they wipe your memory.
Yeah,
and if I had to guess, I think that's probably what's in store for Dylan at the end of this. Right? He is in Lumen. He's going to flip the switches.
Oh, so you mean as a result of his right?
Yeah, I think that'll be the punishment. Will be he effectively dies, that they'll just wipe him. Anyway, that's my thought.
But they'll have to be suspicious of the rest of them as well. So why would he just do that without telling people that that's what they could expect to have happen? They'll probably have some surveillance at Lumen, the Lumen party, the Egan party, but perhaps no surveillance where. Irv and Mark are, but they could ask the people around there, like, if he's able to keep his cool, what happened? What did he do? And, if he is not freaked out, like, wait a minute, then it's like, okay, why weren't you freaked out? What's going on? Did you plan to do it?
I'm just thinking that maybe the level of punishment is different for those.
Sure.
Versus the guy that broke in and did. And
Yeah.
And so that maybe that level of punishment comes out. So maybe when they show up the next day, when they're all going to compare notes, Dylan is like, well, who are, whatever.
Yeah, too bad they didn't have the ability or know-how, because they could have done the opposite for Dylan, so that, when he did it, he could have made himself, his outside self, come inside Lumen. And so then he could be like, this sucks. Oh, what's this note here? Why am I in some
Yeah.
sort of control center? This sucks. If you could just hit the thing that...
Right, you could have your Audi spend the day at work, basically.
Yeah,
And like now you know. So the other protocols, they had the Beehive protocol. No idea, other than maybe that's like, it reminded me of something like the Borg, maybe like a collective consciousness thing or something. Who knows? Branch transfer. Maybe it's instituted when employees move locations. We know Lumen has a bunch of locations.
Yeah. That makes sense.
There's the elephant protocol. An elephant never forgets. So I don't know what what that means, but freeze frame. Can they actually maybe freeze an innie in place or something, or
Interesting.
make them kind of drop,
Or make them perhaps immobile.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, I have a consciousness, but I can't do anything.
Right. Like a paralysis, essentially.
Yeah.
And then there was Glasgow, and just because I had seen some medical records recently, anyway, I knew about the Glasgow coma scale. And so that is used to determine a person's level of consciousness. It goes from like 3 to 15. It's one of those weird things where 3 basically means you're in a coma, 15 means you're responsive. So is it possible that Glasgow means you can put someone somewhere on the coma scale, or consciousness scale?
Interesting.
Maybe? Anyway. So those are all, very interesting little glimpses into the other uses for the technology, basically, right? This tech has several uses that we haven't seen yet. Yeah, we're going to see the Audis become innies.
Yes.
And it'll be really interesting to see how they try to thrive, especially Irving being isolated. Like, how's he going to spend his time? I'm interested to see that. And
clearly they're not going to wrap it up in an episode.
No.
So be interesting to see where they, where they end it. Clearly, they'll probably, but I can't imagine that they won't introduce some mystery that people have to stew over for the break.
And supposedly this is just like a 40-minute episode. It's not some giant 2-part, 100-hour and a half or something. It's 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I don't think they're going to wrap up. They're going to resolve anything between, say, Mark and Gemma. He might find out that he was married to her, but that's about it.
Right.
Helly, we're going to probably find out about, what her outside life is like, but we'll just get a glimpse of that.
Sure.
We're not going to know. I don't think we're going to find out what Lumen does. I don't think. That will stay a secret. There'll be some big questions that don't get answered in episode 9, but it is what it is.
That's right. That's what it is.
Hopefully they answer some questions, and they've set up a really cool scenario here. So and they didn't force it. I feel like this kind of flows naturally from the plot. The absurd plot they've created to have this thing where suddenly your consciousness is now the consciousness of this worker drone that you've created to make your life easier. My one hope is that I might have more hopes, but my one hope is that at the end of the episode, Harmony doesn't sort of like, oh, now I love Egan again. Now I love Lumen again. That something happens that causes her to decide to I agree, and I think it does have something to do with her mom, and that was somehow the basis of her devotion to Kier. And anyway, so we'll see how that works. But you're right. I don't want to return to neutral for Harmony. I'd rather her now. Things have happened. She's been fired.
Yeah.
Her plan has not gone as she wanted it to, and now she's with the good guys, maybe. Who knows? But so we'll see. Looking forward to it. If you guys out there have theories on how the finale is gonna end, what little secrets we might learn, feel free to put them in the comments.
Please share.
And we will come back and we'll be talking in detail about the finale next week. Also be talking about Moon Knight, of course. So come on back for that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Paul, as always.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.